Hello, this video will be a demonstration of our management portal for Veeam and is geared toward the MSP that is responsible for managing and monitoring client backups. My name is Nathan Golden and I am the founder of Managecast Technologies. Managecast is 100% focused on backup and disaster recovery solutions, and we monitor and manage our clients' backups, and Veeam is definitely our leading backup and recovery solution. If you are a service provider using Veeam, let me address a few of the challenges you may be facing. Some service providers use email alerts to monitor in-client backups. Email alerts are very easy to set up, but can quickly become numerous and overwhelming the more clients you have to manage. Also, what happens when a backup does not run and no email is sent? Will you notice? Emails make it difficult to see historical data. If you're using email alerts to monitor client backups, I'm sure you can relate to how cumbersome this is. Maybe you are running Veeam Cloud Connect in the Veeam Availability Console. Sometimes I'll refer to Veeam Availability Console as VAC for short. VAC is only available to service providers and definitely is a step up from using email alerts. However, only the status of the last backup is viewable in VAC. If you check backups on Monday morning, you may not see the failures that may have occurred over the weekend. In another case, if a backup runs every hour, you may not see it fail many times during a day. Again, only the status of the last backup is viewable in VAC. VAC also does not provide historical or trending data. So after analyzing the difficulties in monitoring and managing our clients' backups, we set out to create the tool we needed in order to be much more effective and productive. We also wanted to show our clients the same information as we would uncover issues the end clients could not easily see. After building the tool, we realized how much more productive and effective it made our team, and we realized other MSPs might benefit from our management portal to monitor their clients. Let's take a look at what we built. This is the login page for our Veeam management portal. I will be logging in with a demo MSP account that has 4 demo assigned customers to demonstrate how an MSP would manage those clients. Keep in mind the value of the portal is directly proportional to the number of clients you have to manage. The more customers that need to be monitored, the more valuable this tool will be. But for demonstration purposes, it is difficult to show 20, 50, or hundreds of customers. Let me go ahead and log in. The first screen we see is the dashboard. Here we provide high-level information about the backups. This top left section represents the backups over a period of time. In this case, it's the last 30 days. I can change this view to be the last 90 days easily. I can also go in and change it to a specific time frame, or even a specific number of days. As I hover over the graph, I can see that green represents how many successes, yellow represents the number of warnings, and red indicates the number of failures. And our goal is to see as much green as possible. Below this window, I show the backups in a calendar view. Notice that I'm showing each of my customers and their respective backup jobs, and then the status of those backups for given days of the week. The numbers in the cells represent how many backups ran in that particular day. In cases where I might have successes and warnings or failures, I can show those as well. So in this case, out of 6 backups, I had 4 successes and 2 warnings. This view allows me to easily see when I have issues or when I'm missing backups. So here, the workstation backups for Discount Plumbers is obviously having a chronic problem. I can also change the time frame here to give me a longer view. And here, this will also show you that in some cases, I can show multiple statuses. Here I've got 8 failures, 2 warnings, and 2 successes. Down below this window, I show the list of repositories for all customers. This includes local repositories as well as offsite cloud repositories. This shows you the capacity assigned to the repository, the amount of free space, and the amount of use space for that repository. The bottom window, I'm showing the number of job failures over a given time frame. The default is 30 days, and again, I can change that to whatever time frame I require. So this shows me over the last 30 days that this particular job had the most failures. I can also click on duration and show the jobs that had the longest duration. I can click on transferred and show the jobs that had the most transferred data. And it also shows the date when those transfers occurred. I would also like to point out that we provide access to the Veeam Availability Console. There's no separate login for this. It simply takes you there without additional login. I apologize this takes a moment to load as my internet connection is not fast at my location. And I will point out that there are certain functions inside of VAC that are useful, such as setting alarms and alerts and other functions. And it was not our intention to replace VAC, but to simply augment it and have it do or replace those things or augment those things that VAC did not do well. So we thought it was important to provide access to VAC. So we're not trying to replace it, we're just trying to augment it. I don't intend this to be a demonstration on VAC, so I will go ahead and return back to our dashboard. So again, the dashboard shows the high level information. However, the true value of the portal is not the dashboard, but the daily checks menu. The daily check menu item takes us to the daily check screen. As I indicated, this is the heart of the monitoring system and where the most value is located for the service provider. This is where our support engineers spend most of their time. The daily check screen is focused around warnings and failures. We intentionally filter off the green or successful backups, so that filter is not on by default. We also do not turn on the running backups filter. Again, we're really focused around the warnings and failures. We have other icons as well that allow us to filter the data. If I only want to see VM backups, I can click on this icon to filter for just VM backups. I can also filter for agent backups, so those are physical server agent backups. In my demo environment, I don't have any agent backups, so I can't demonstrate that filter. But obviously in a larger environment with real customers, you're bound to have agent backups as well as VM backups. By default, we show both at the same time. We can also differentiate between local backups as well as offsite backups. You may have a service provider that's only interested in the offsite backups to them, and they don't necessarily manage the onsite backups, or vice versa. So in this case, you can filter on just seeing the local backups or just seeing the offsite backups, or by default seeing both. This also will show you over here, this icon shows you whether or not the backup is a local backup or a cloud backup by this icon. If you hover over that icon, it also shows you the backup repository name. Before I speak about the all, pending, and acknowledge filters, I would like to point out that on the top part of this screen, we generally default to seeing short-term data for the backup jobs themselves. In this case, I default to the last 2 days. The reason for this is because we are assuming that backups are being checked every day, and we just want to see the most recent backups and don't worry about the backups that have happened in the past. However, in my test environment, it might be wise to go ahead and change this to the last 7 days to show me more information. Now, again, I want to point out that the top part of the screen is for short-term data, backup jobs that I have not seen the messages for. Whenever I select a particular backup job on the top part of the screen, it will update the bottom part of the screen. The bottom part of the screen is meant to show longer-term information for this particular job. So by default, we show the last 30 days of backups for this particular job that's selected. If I choose a different backup at the top, it shows me the last 30 days for that particular backup. So we combine the short-term view with the ability to drill in and see the longer-term view. So this particular backup that is selected runs every 4 hours. Again, we have the one-line item up here, but down here we can see the history and see clearly that it runs every 4 hours. And because it runs every 4 hours, this puts a lot of points on our graph. I'll point out that the black line that you see here indicates the duration of the backup. The blue bar that you see indicates how much data was transferred. So it's easy to see when there's spikes in both time and duration. The graph also shows us where warnings or failures occurred. I can see that there's a yellow dot indicating a warning. If I click on that yellow dot, it takes me directly to that warning and shows me the message and the exact time that I got that message. Also, if I do that with the red dot, it does the same. It takes me directly to that message. This is very useful in allowing me to see if there's any kind of pattern or recurring error. Maybe once a week or once a month I get a similar error. And this allows me to go back in time and check my past errors to see if there's any correlation with the past. So it's very easy to go back and check that information. You'll also, as I indicated earlier, notice that there are a lot of points on the graph. If you were to click and drag, you can zoom in on that part of the graph to maybe make it less busy, and so you can see that information in an easier way. Now, back to the acknowledgement functions. These all, pending, and acknowledge buttons. This is really critical and very important. Imagine you have 3 or 4 support engineers tasked with checking the backups every morning. How do you track which engineer acknowledged which events, or if 2 engineers see the same alert? Or let's say you have a single engineer who is out sick and another engineer checks the backups. Another example is, what if you happen to skip a day due to a holiday but still want to check if there were problems when you get back to the office? It's very valuable to understand if a backup has been checked or not. This avoids you missing something important and having something fall through the cracks. It also allows you to eventually show your clients that you are indeed checking the backup, which is great for audit purposes. If I go to the acknowledged filter, you can see that I have no events over the last 7 days that are acknowledged. Normally, this would really be bad in real life because it means I haven't checked or acknowledged my backups in 7 days. Given this is a demo account, I'll look the other way, but the idea is that I wouldn't want this to happen. So if I go back to the pending button, it shows me all of the messages that have not been acknowledged. So what I want to do, have the engineers do, is look at each message and determine if there's a course of action that's required. Sometimes we get messages and they're minor, and we ask ourselves, well, maybe we won't see this again. Maybe it's not a big deal. And in this case, we saw it on the 28th, and then all the other backups after that were okay. So it's probably not worth worrying about. Then we can say, backups continued to function, no action taken. All right, so I'm just putting in a note. We don't have to notate. It's good if you know what happened, or if you want to make a note to another engineer that might be looking at this in the future. But it's up to you whether or not you want to make a note. You can put a note in, and then you can acknowledge the event. When you acknowledge the event, it disappears from this list because it's acknowledged, and you'd have to go to the Acknowledge tab to see that acknowledgement. Okay, so the idea is that if it's under pending, it has not been seen, it has not been acknowledged. So you can go through and acknowledge these events. Obviously, I'm kind of breezing through this quickly, but you'd want to probably look at each message and determine whether or not it's something that you should have to worry about or not, or take a course of action. So another course of action that we often take is we want to notify the customer. And one of the reasons we want to try to keep this list as small as possible and only look at the most current pending tasks is I always instruct our guys to try to notify the client before they notify us. So the idea is that we're trying to be very proactive, we're monitoring it, and we're noticing things before our client does. So a lot of times we'll want to notify our client that we see an issue. So in the past, before this tool, it was a very manual process. We had to, open up our email client, copy and paste messages, try to remember who the contact person was for this particular client, what their email address was. Hopefully they're in our frequent contacts. Hopefully we can remember who they were. Sometimes we have to go look up that customer in our CRM if we haven't notified them for a while. And so it was a very manual, time-intensive process. In another area of the portal, which I'm not going to show you right now, we set up the customers and we set up all the contacts of the customers. So each company has a list of contacts and their email addresses are already in here. So if we need to send a notification to a customer because of a certain error message, we can easily do that by clicking on the little paper airplane icon. And when we do that, it opens up the ticket creation window down here and it automates some of the information. So it says, hello, we have noticed that, and it provides the job name. We're just getting that from this column here. Has completed with job status, which is the status here, either failed or warning. Since yesterday, and we're proactively looking into it, we've created an incident ticket to help track of the issue. And then we include a copy of the error message that we're referring to. I also encourage my guys to customize this message when it's appropriate. I want to avoid the appearance that this is always an automated message. In many cases, or in all cases, we have to manually kick this off, so it's never automatic. I don't like automatic messages because people get desensitized to them and don't take action. So I encourage my people to insert maybe a little custom entry in here, like let me know if you have time for a remote session today for me to help resolve this issue. And you click on create ticket, and that will generate an email to the customer with all that information. It also sends an email to our support email account, which also kicks off a ticket inside of our system. In the future, we're going to be looking at integrating with third-party ticketing systems like ConnectWise, but right now it's all done through email for the notifications. Now, once I've done that and I click on pending again, you'll notice that this message goes away because it's automatically acknowledged, because obviously if I've sent a ticket or a message, it's automatically acknowledged the event. So, and this will show me by this little icon that a ticket was created, whereas on the other ones, a ticket was not created. That actually might have been this one down here. So going back to pending, I would continue to go through here and acknowledge the pending alerts. Now we did add in a bulk ability to acknowledge, which you would think is super handy, but we want to be careful that engineers just don't acknowledge 50 or 100 events because they're lazy and don't want to look at all this stuff. So if you click on acknowledge and you've got a big selection, it'll give you a warning, or actually it won't allow you to do this. It'll say, if the selected jobs are different, it's not going to allow you to do a bulk acknowledge. So we kind of protect from engineers getting lazy. Not that engineers are, but if it's Friday and they want to get out of the office, who knows? But if you do select, the same backup job and you want to bulk acknowledge those, then you can do that. So you can bulk acknowledge as long as all of the backup jobs are the same. And one of the nice little techniques for that is to, I don't know if I have a good example here, but you can, I know it needs to be workstation backup, but you can select this, copy it. Actually, it'd probably be job. Let me do it by job. Workstation backups. Let's try this. Fly without a net. So we're going to filter on just workstation backups. and then I can bulk select that, acknowledge, and it's done. All right, they happen to all be the same. So I've got everything acknowledged. Nothing is pending now. And so I know that I've checked all the backups and this is nice and clean. And in fact, my engineers keep this up and running during the day, and when new things pop up, we see that very quickly and we can be very proactive. We used to just check backups once a day, and so if some event happened at 10 a.m. after we had checked backups, we normally wouldn't notify the client till the next day. But now we can kind of do checks throughout the day by just watching the screen and seeing new things pop up. So it's definitely made us a lot more productive as well as a lot more proactive. Now, with all that said, if a backup does not run at all, let's say you've got 50 end clients and you have one of them that has a power outage and their backups didn't run. Well, you may or may not notice that you didn't get any backup activities. And again, if they're always successful and we're kind of ignoring the successful backups, you may not have noticed that the backups didn't run. And so we wanted to add in the capability of seeing things that didn't run. And so I've got another tab here called Didn't Run. And if I click on that, it defaults to showing me everything that has not run since yesterday at 7 a.m., which is right now only one backup job has not run since yesterday at 7 a.m. And this may or may not indicate a problem. Sometimes it's good to say, show me any backup that hasn't run for the last 2 or 3 or 4 days. Or, if you want to do 30 days, some people just run, monthly backups on some jobs. But the idea is that if it doesn't run and we don't get any messages, we definitely want to know if it hasn't run, because that could slip through the cracks. But on the other hand, there's a lot of times where it didn't run as normal. So if a customer retired a server, retired a backup job, or just ran a test backup, then it may show up on this list. And we do give the ability to ignore it. So if you look at it, you maybe communicate with the customer, okay, you've retired that server. I know this backup job is not going to run anymore, or you've told me it's not going to run anymore, then I can permanently ignore it. And in fact, this defaults to showing me the not ignored. You can always go back in and see the ignored, and you can see there's quite a few backups that we have filtered off and ignored in the past because maybe those backups no longer exist. For it to show up in this list, it has to run at least one time. So if it has never run, we will never see it. We will never track it. We don't have any ability to see it because it never did anything on our side. It never sent us any logs. But if that backup job runs one time, then we will track it from there on out until you ignore it. So it's a powerful feature. It definitely helps things from falling through the cracks. That's basically it. I think I've shown you the salient features of this solution. I'll tell you one more thing that I didn't show you when we were going over the dashboard. But from the dashboard view, like this calendar view here, if you click on any one of these cells, it'll actually take you to the daily check window and filter for that particular backup on that particular day. So like, Discount Plumbers here is having workstation backup issues. So if I want to go in and see that information, I can just click on that window. It takes me to the daily check screen. It automatically filters on Discount Plumbers. It automatically filters on that particular job. It automatically filters on that particular day and shows me the error messages. So that's very handy. That allows you to kind of just directly go in and drill that in. I didn't want to show that before because I wanted to show the daily check functionality first. And you can see it regardless of whether or not it's acknowledged or not, it shows you those events. So anyway, just want to point out that the dashboard does allow you to kind of automatically go to the daily filters or the daily checks and filter on that particular information. So that's it for now. I'm sure there's more to show you. If anybody wants to try this out, we'd be happy to let you do that. You do not have to send backups to us to do it, although we would love for you to send backups to us. But you can just send your backups to your Cloud Connect or some super low cost cloud provider out there that doesn't provide management. And if you add us as a service provider in the Veeam backup and replication console, the last service provider that gets added will get sent the logs. So if you want the logs to be sent to us to enable this management portal so that you can monitor it, you do not have to send your backups to us, but you do have to enable us as a service provider so that the logs do come to us. In the future, we're going to be able to tie into other service providers' VAC. So we'll have additional capabilities where you get to kind of host your own VAC, but still get the data to us and use our portal. And we're continually making improvements to this portal, and we're excited about the future and other things that we're going to add. So I appreciate your time going through this, and any feedback you want to provide us would be most appreciated, or if you want to try it out. Thank you so much.